Hello, fellow wealth hackers. Well, it's time for another Wealth Insight, and I am really excited. Hey, what do you think of the t-shirt? You should get yourself one. Click on the link below. I've spoken a lot about wealth hackers, but that's not about today's Wealth Insight. Today's Wealth Insight for me is a really, really material insight, and it's around a word that I'm deeply passionate about, and I actually think it's one of my purposes on this planet is to help unlock this word for everybody, and the word is freedom. Now, I had a personal experience just this week around freedom, and I want to share it with you. If you've been following me and if you've been on my webinars and whatever, you would have heard of the story of my uncle. I've told it many, many times. So the précis version is that in 1980, he started investing offshore. He started building up global assets with global income. He was living in Zimbabwe. In 2003, he decided to immigrate to Australia. He bought his way into Australia. He bought a house for cash. He sent his kid to a private school, and he didn't have to pay for, he didn't have to work for an Australian. I always joke, okay. But it's really interesting because I want to get back to the essence of what freedom is. So his wife's brother lives in East London and is ill right now. And his medical cover doesn't allow him to go to private hospital, so you'd have to go to a government hospital. And so last Wednesday, when they got the advice, my uncle and his wife just decided to fly to South Africa and take a month off, okay. And they flew here. They arrived on Tuesday morning. They picked up the brother, and they drove down to Cape Town to go and get the best private health that the country could offer. And I find it fascinating because for me, my uncle epitomizes what I try and teach people when it comes to freedom. Because if you think about it, firstly, he had freedom of lifestyle. Like, he doesn't work in a day job. He didn't have to ask his boss. He invests, he owns global assets, and he has a passive income. So he could make a decision. Him and his wife sat and they said, right, we can do this. And a drop of a hat, they flew to South Africa. Secondly, he had the freedom to make the choices that he wanted. So he decided he wanted to be there with his wife and her brother, which is just, imagine how empowering that is. Thirdly, he had the money to be able to do it. Like, he had the money to fly here. He had the money to be able to pay for accommodation and, have a month working holiday, whatever you want to call it, in South Africa. Fourthly, and probably the best part of the whole story, is he had the ability to be compassionate and, not knowing what the costs were, say to the brother, we'll go and see the doctors and the specialists and I'll be able to cover the bill. And that for me epitomizes freedom. Because if you think about it, he's had the ability to make all the choices that he wants, including looking after people that are close to him. And so a lot of people kind of, when they see these get-rich-quick schemes, and I was on a course last week where the guy's talking about his Porsches and his Lamborghinis, and you see Grant Cardone with his private jet, and people like try and associate with the ego, and they like, I want Porsches and jets and that. And honestly, for me, I've had the privilege of living the rich dad, poor dad. My uncle is the rich dad, and my dad was the poor dad, and I've always idolized and been so impressed by the life that my uncle has been able to create for himself. When I was like 21, my uncle said he goes on holiday every single day and he gets paid to do it. I mean, think about that. If your life was doing what you love and getting paid to do it. When my dad was sick, my uncle was there to be able to help my dad. And now, 20-something years later, he's there to help someone else in terms of the freedom. But there's no flash. There's no fancy car, there's no fancy house. You wouldn't know. If my uncle walked down the street, you wouldn't even know who he was. That for me is true freedom. So the question I've got for you is, how can you get that? And that's what we're passionate about. That's what Wealth Hackers is all about. We hack our way there together. We use the laws of nature together because we're passionate about giving you the freedom of choice. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to work? Where do you want your kids to go to school? Where do you want to go to university? Your kids to go to university? Where do you want to go on holiday? Who do you want to donate to? Who do you want to be compassionate to? That's what we're passionate about. Freedom. If you're interested in that, join our Wealth Hacker community, like-minded global community from all over the world who are hacking our way to wealth together. And if you do it on your own, you've got less than 50% chance of success. If you do it with a partner, you've got about a 60% chance of success. If you do it in a like-minded community, you've got a higher than 70% chance of success. How important is your freedom to you? Because for me personally, my freedom is absolutely fundamentally important. And that is why I've spent the last 25 years of my life studying the wealthiest people in the world so that I could create the freedom in my life and I could create freedom for those that are around me, those that are important to me. And I've learned that to do it on my own, to go fast, go alone. To go far, go together. That's my invitation to you. Anyway, that's our weekly Wealth Insight from this week. See you next week. Join the Wealth Hackers if you're interested. Click on the link below. And if you think that this added value to you, please share it with your friends and family. It's all about the self-belief and empowering others. Till next week.